Hello, hello. This is Sabrina Amina with the Feelings Pod. Today's episode is on playful loneliness and approaching loneliness with a playful spirit, or leaning into play as a way to hold feelings of loneliness. I think maybe my whole life, but not consciously. Definitely in recent years, I've more consciously been thinking about, talking about, experimenting with the experience of loneliness. And at this point in my life, it feels like I kind of feel like loneliness is this illusion. It's a forgetting, it's a separation, it's like I know I'm never alone. Like even in this moment, I'm alone in my home, but I'm not really alone when I'm attuned to all of the things in my life that hold me and nurture me. And I mean, first and foremost, it's God. Like, I think my loneliness is a symptom of my forgetfulness of God, because God is always with me. Um, you know, if this is the first time you're listening to me, surprise, I believe in God. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe lean in, or maybe this is not the right space for you. But I'm going to talk about God a lot because I love God. So I'm also like shedding shame around like talking about God, because I grew up in America. I'm Muslim American, and I've always felt this need to like damp down any devotional practices I have to God, because in America, like being a religious Muslim automatically kind of translates to like being a terrorist, unfortunately. Like you can like maybe you can be Muslim, but you can't like be fully expressed in your Muslimness. Oh God. I'm having flashbacks to like when I was in 10th grade and like 9/11 happened. Oh God, this is not where we were going today. Anyhow, so that was like a brief detour. But yeah. Um anyhow, welcome to the Feelings Pod. If you're new here, it gets messy. And if you've returned, God bless you. Anyhow, see, this is how I play when I'm alone to handle my loneliness. Like, I just talk into my voice recorder. Um, and look at all the laughter that's emerged from my playfulness. And that's really what I'm here to talk about today, is as I this morning I was like, I think I'm going to talk about my loneliness. Loneliness feels like such a tender, vulnerable place to talk about, but I've and I was like, wait a minute, have I talked about this before? And then I think the third episode of this podcast was on loneliness, and yeah, that was also like really, I mean, all of these episodes are tender because they're very like come from my heart and they come from my lived experience. And so I, yeah, this podcast is a work of heart. So welcome to this portal. Get cozy, stay a while, Or, if you need to leave, you can exit stage left. Choose your own adventure, kids. Okay, now, play. So we all have something called an inner child. Maybe you've met them, maybe you haven't. But if you haven't met your inner child yet, get curious about what your inner child might need from you. Introduce yourself to your inner child. I'll be like, hey, Amina, how you doing? I love you. I see that you're scared. I see that you're feeling lonely and rejected. And maybe you feel like you don't have any friends. I have a lot of stuff that came up from elementary school bullying. So there's an old story that I don't have any friends. I mean, I do have friends, but little Sabrina Amina just feels like nobody loves me. First generation child of immigrants too. So that's a whole, if you know, you know. I'm not going to get into that. Wow, there is a lot going on here in this first 6 minutes. I wasn't prepared for this. Maybe you weren't either. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, let's just take a deep breath and settle in. Because this is actually a really fun topic that I'm excited to talk about. So maybe that's why I'm feeling super activated. And all the neurons are firing. So when I talk to little Sabrina Amina, sometimes she's like, I feel alone. Why am I alone? Nobody loves me. And it's just a forgetting. And I'm just like, I see you, little Amina. Let's play a game. So I'll get out my paints and I'll make some art. I'll do something creative. I'll if it's a nice day and it's rained recently, I'll put my feet in a muddy spot in the earth. And it's just have you ever squished your feet in mud? If not, I highly recommend it. Nurturing your inner child is it's a really fun and playful way to approach loneliness. Growing up, I was never really practiced at being alone because I grew up with 5 siblings and, there are just people around all the time, whether you wanted to be around people or not. And which is a huge blessing in my life. And, but also as I grew older and, got more entrenched in systems of capitalism, I felt more isolated. I entered a professional life and, I was out of this little cute bubble that some of us have the privilege of experiencing in university or even in high school and then you're kind of not formally in school anymore and just navigating this kind of nebulous void of what do I do? Where do I go? Who am I? What am I? What am I doing in the world? What is my purpose? And I yeah, sorry. I just need to pause because there are a lot of different avenues I can go down. And I think the one I'm choosing is my experience of leaving the country when I was in my 20s. It was a couple of years. I think it was a couple of years after I graduated college and I was working as a substitute teacher. I was living in my parents' home again and feeling very stifled and what am I supposed to be doing? So I had a really, really hard breakup, but necessary. And I decided to leave my parents' home. And I just like spent it actually didn't take very long. It was just like a couple of months. I'm like thinking about it now, I'm amazed at how quickly I just found a job overseas and was like, I'm out of here. Bye. So I just like packed my bags and left the country. I bought a one-way ticket to Istanbul, Turkey, where I got a job as a kindergarten teacher. And not even like a it was a full-time job, but it was just kind of like a helper teacher. So I had been subbing. I had not yet gotten my like teacher certification. I went to a weird school called Sarah Lawrence where you don't have majors and you graduate with something called a useless piece of paper called a liberal arts degree. Okay, sorry. It's not useless. I don't know. Somebody said you had to get a bachelor's degree. So that's what I did. And then I was like, okay, now I have to pay off some student loans and like figure out how to like not live in my parents' house. Although, yeah. Anyhow, so the my first like full-time job in after I graduated college was in Istanbul, Turkey. I was teaching kindergarten. I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of the country. I had always longed to like travel and go somewhere. Yeah. I'm actually really like amused as I'm telling this story. Um, because, and I'm really actually proud of like that version of myself that knew I had to go somewhere and do something. I mean, it really could have just been a really intense flight response to some overwhelming stress I was feeling, but um, it was more than that. It was a desire to, find myself. And so I moved to Istanbul, Turkey, and they provided me with an apartment and transportation to and from my job. And I was like in this little town in Turkey, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't speak any Turkish, but thankfully the school I worked at, like there were lots of people who spoke English, and um, I met um, other foreigners who were living in Turkey and teaching. And that was the beginning of like a 4-year adventure that, it was just like such a, such a, I mean, it was a wonderful, beautiful time of my life. And it was also very confronting and lonely at times. And the loneliness, the only way I knew how to deal with the loneliness was to like find other people no matter what, like leave my home. And like I could not tolerate like being alone in my apartment. It was too much for me. um and so the problem with that is like I think I was just, I mean, I definitely found some wonderful friends, but also it's a good practice to learn how to be alone with yourself. And over the last few years, I've gotten better at it for sure. I journal, I make space for my feelings. I started this podcast after a particularly upsetting experience that kind of brought me face to face with the ways that I self abandon. And when we're in those kind of patterns of self abandonment, of course you feel lonely because you're trying to get your needs met and expecting folks who have no clue about what you need to give you what you need, and then you keep getting disappointed. And because at the end of the day, it was my responsibility to figure out what I need and how to nurture myself and like create space for me to just sit with myself and sit with little Amina and reassure her and comfort her and tell her that she's, wonderful and her feelings are valid, and we can make art and we can write and we can journal and we can play outside and we can be held in the warmth of the sunshine and we can be held by Mother Earth and like just lie in the grass and like, yeah, have all these transcendent experiences of life on this planet, life as a human. Yeah. So these days I dance and I go for walks and I spend time in nature and I paint. Painting is really special to me because I was inspired to paint by someone I love very dearly who's no longer in my life, and in a way painting feels like a sweet way to stay connected. And also just like something that uncovers layers of myself that I'm continuously meeting. Yeah. Every time a new painting emerges from sitting with my inner child, I'm just like, I'm in awe of like, oh, look at this beautiful thing you created. You're so full of magic. And so loneliness is, I think, part of like navigating loneliness, I think, is just part of my job on this earth. And it's I think it's just a place where I get to learn more about myself, which is really sweet. And I notice that I think another way that I avoid my loneliness is with distraction or overwork or, constantly surrounding myself with people. Like, for example, today, a friend invited me somewhere and I was like, oh, I could do that. Or I could just like kind of sit at home because that was what I was leaning towards. But my impulse is usually to go where the invitation is. But today I just listened to the invitation of like little Amina, who was like, I think I need some quiet time. I think I need some quiet alone time today. So yeah, I'm here playing with little Amina, and I get to be alone, but not necessarily feel consumed by the dread that can sometimes come with loneliness. Yeah. So maybe we can just do a short little breathing exercise today, and yeah, find a comfortable. Why don't you just lie down? That could be nice. If you prefer sitting up, you can sit up. But definitely like feather your nest, as one of my favorite meditation teachers would say. Is just like get comfy, get cozy, like really allow yourself to feel held. And if you're not in a place right now where you can do that, um, just hit pause and come back to the meditation when you're able to really get cute and cozy and comfortable. So just allow your back body to melt into the support below you and start tuning into your breath, and let the eyes soften and close, and begin to tune into your breath as your focus comes inward. And notice the breath as it comes in and out of your body. And there's no need to control the breath, just the act of bringing your attention to the breath brings about subtle changes in the breath. Tune in. It might feel nice to put your hand on your belly or your heart to just feel the waves of your body as you breathe in and out. And just imagine that the breath is its own being and you are being breathed by the being of breath. As you follow the inhale and exhale, imagine you're in a really lush garden and it's warm, and maybe there's just like a kiss of humidity that's not oppressive, but just like delicious. And you are walking in this greenery and you approach your inner child and you greet them. Perhaps you give them a hug or just gaze at them lovingly. And you both sit in the softness of the earth, gazing at one another. And in this moment, you just take the opportunity to ask your inner child, what would you like? What can I offer you? And just deeply listen. You don't have to find the answer. Let the response emerge. And maybe your inner child, the little version of you, will have something to say right away. And perhaps the little version of you might simply be satisfied with having your attention in this moment. Maybe the little version of you just simply needs to be seen. Take a deep breath in, let it go. And just keep listening. Allow yourself to sit in stillness with your inner child. Let it be playful. Let it be easeful. There's no need to force anything here. Once you feel like you have an answer, offer your inner child some reassurance and tell them that I'm here. I'm here for you. Tell them that you love them. Just say, I love you. Say, I hear you. I see you. Tell your inner child, I will protect you. I will care for you. I will remember you. And I will always keep coming back to you. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And when you feel complete, give your inner child a hug and a kiss, or whatever feels resonant for you, however you'd like to interact with your inner child. As your meeting comes to a close, once more, just offer reassurance to your inner little one that you'll be back. And as you both part ways, feel into this sense of a deeper knowing, a deeper understanding, a deeper care, a deeper love. Take a deep breath in, let it go. Allow yourself to feel nourished by the green garden. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room, let the eyes flutter open, and tune into how you feel in this moment. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and I will see you next time.